All right, so I've biked across America 3 times, and I wrote a book about my first trip. And over the years, I've done about 35 to 40 presentations about biking across America. Yay! And usually they're in libraries, and I sell my book at the end, and I try to encourage people to follow their dreams. In this video, I'm gonna do my slideshow. All right. So, by the way, I got the campfire. I got not a campfire, my wood burning stove going. And so let's just go. All right. Biking across America. I'll need to go a little faster because of my camera and memory space, but I just want to kind of do it the way I usually do it when I do a presentation at a library or senior center or wherever. All right. All right, so this is just a fun cartoon I always put at the beginning. Woohoo! Have you ever seen those, those public, they track your speed? When I see it, of course, I try to speed and, get over the speed limit. So if I ever got a ticket for speeding, I would definitely I would frame it. I'd post it on social media. I'd be bragging about it. So, all the things you've always wanted to do? You should go do them. I'll tell you right now, my little slideshow here, I talk about my trips and I tell good stories and the logistics, but I always I don't want it just to be about me. I want the heart of it to be as if I was holding a mirror up in front of me and saying, what are your dreams? What are those things that you've always wanted to accomplish, that you've always wanted to take on, and you haven't had the opportunity or you haven't had the gumption yet? I don't know what it is, but, to go for it and to take that risk. Anyway, that's part of this. So, and of course, it doesn't have to be biking across America. There's actually more noble and greater things you can do for the world. But anyway, yeah, the things you've always wanted to do, you should go do them. Next. All right, so here were my routes of my 3 bike across America trips. I mostly took a southern route. Not sure how well you can see that with my camera. You just have to have a one day at a time mentality. Let's say you're only biking 50 miles a day, which is probably what I'm going to do on my 4th trip. So if you're if you live in Colorado and you're all right, I live in Denver. Well, I want you to bike from Denver to Castle Rock. All right, you could probably do that. Then I want you to ride your bike from Castle Rock to the north side of Colorado Springs. All right, you could probably do that. Then I want you to go from the north side of Colorado Springs, make it an easy day, just to the south side of Colorado Springs. All right? Next day, I want you to bike to Pueblo. All right? Next day, bike to Walsenburg. On and on. Before you know it, you know what I mean? You've gone many hundred miles across the country, or across the state, and it's a succession of many states. So, anyway, so those are my routes, and let's go to the next slide. So here's a cool story. This is a picture with me and Kelly. And at the time she lived in McRae, Georgia, which is this little central Georgia town. And, on that second trip, she's actually married now. It's cool. We still keep in touch. But at the time, I remember, I think I texted her when I was in California. And I remember in New Mexico, there was one evening where I called her. And then after that, I think I just texted her once in Texas or something. And then when I was about 60, 70 miles away from her home, I texted her and I was like, tomorrow, I'm going to be at your house. She gave me the physical address, and it was a Sunday, and she said, I'll make dinner, and she made me lasagna, and I crashed at her place. And it was so cool because she was tracking me online, and then her house wasn't too far from the main 2 lane highway that goes through her town. And I just rolled up into, like, her little sidewalk here, and rang the doorbell. And then it was like, hey, Kelly, like, I biked here from California. So it was just such a fun, you have so many fun stories like that when you bike across America. So that's just a nice memory. I'll be kind of throwing in stories here and there. All right, so here's a picture of me at the beach for my first trip and my third trip. And I did go alone. Can you see that? I went alone. You can't see it. Anyway, I went alone. So everything that I carried with me was in those panniers. Okay, you carry, oh, there's my bike right there. Okay, my extra clothing, my, like my toothbrush and my toothpaste and my deodorant, my tubes, my tools for fixing my bike. Just a few extra things. My phone and my phone charger, my camera, and whatever else I brought. I didn't really bring a lot. All right. And you just, and on my third trip, I did bring my laptop. So, but at least it's small. It's kind of small. So anyway, and you have to do everything on your own. Fix flats, do this, do that, like everything, you know? So, but just think about it. Every day, it's like one day at a time. Just go for a bike ride for 50, 60, 70 miles and treat it like it's your full-time job. And, for most people, they have an 8-hour job or 9 or 10 hours, with a lunch or whatever. What if I just said you only have to bike 6 hours a day? Could you do that? And all you had to focus on is just being a bicyclist. So that's one way to look at it. I took that picture, by the way. It was a sunrise in Buena Vista, Colorado, where I used to live there. So the distinguishing mark of true adventures is that it is often no fun at all while they are actually happening. Kim Stanley Robinson. That I want to say right now. I got to turn the camera towards me. That's exactly what biking across America is like. It's like, you have good days, you have fun times, but especially on my third trip, I was like, man, I'm ready to be done. I was only like 40% of the way through the trip, and I was like, I just want to finish already. Been there, done that. Anyway, that's what it was like. It doesn't feel like, hold on, what did I do? Okay. So it doesn't feel like an adventure when you're doing it. It doesn't feel like this fun, crazy thing. But then when you're done, there's this ecstasy and joy. And then you look back and you're like, oh, that was a great memory. Oh, that was funny. All right, that was a hard day, but still, I can laugh about it now. All right, so just some pictures of just random things. This was day one of my 2017 trip. John Wiley, the great John Wiley, he biked with me from San Diego into Western Arizona for 5 days. And lots of fun. And then we met these two cyclists, and we biked together on this bicycle lane. Good memories. And then even just day two, I'm not going to do every day, but yeah, we biked up to 4,000 feet in elevation, which that's a good climb from zero at sea level. So anyway, and then there was this guy named Dustin who he lived in Trinidad, Colorado. He saw my Colorado jersey, and we had this great connection, and I had to get a picture with him, and then he was tracking me, so that was a lot of fun. That is me. Yes, you can bike on interstate highways in rural parts of the western USA where there are no alternative routes from point A to point B. This is actually my second trip. This is Interstate 10, east of Palm Springs and east of Indio. And I was headed to Blythe, California. So I had a friend biking with me, and he was behind me, and he got the shot. And I love it. It's a great shot. So anyway, so on my trip, I will be biking. I'll be on this section again I-10 in California, and then maybe a small section of I-10 in New Mexico. So anyway, but it's just kind of interesting. And by the way, even though cars are flying by at, you know, highway speeds, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, I still felt safer with a wide shoulder, you know, the width of a car or, you know, even more, and a rumble strip like this. I would take this over some, you know, some road in some suburb where, you know, people are they're in a rush to get to work, and, you know, they're headed to the big city and they're in a suburb, and, you know, they're just ticked off that there's a cyclist with no shoulder slowing them down, kind of a thing, honking their horns. Like this, it's like people in the desert, they're just bored and they're just driving, and, you know, they're not going to be annoyed by me. They'll just look at me and be like, oh wow, there's a guy on a bicycle. So anyway, just really interesting. It's wild though when like big trucks, semis fly past you. And there is something called wind blasting where they carry a vacuum of air and they kind of grab you and push you ahead. It's really cool. So, all right. I wrote a poem, and it's in the first, it's at the beginning of my book, and I'm going to read it to you. Many days I longed to finish my bike ride across America with as much desire as a young child in early December who wants the time between then and Christmas morning to be over, and yet suspecting that when the trip finally ends, sadness, like the death of a dream, or the cold wind that signals the beginning of a long winter, may quietly pounce upon my heart. That's the only poem I've ever wrote that was anybody's ever liked, so there you go. All right, one more slide, and then we're going to take a break. This is the story of my bicycle getting stolen on my first bike trip. Okay? First bike trip, first time was 2008. And that's me. I'm a little younger. It was like 10 years ago now. 11 years ago. Anyway, I had this bright red bike. It was a giant bike. And kind of crazy, but I didn't have a lot of photos of me with my bike. Just kind of funny. And I was riding, I was kind of approaching, I was in Wickenburg, Arizona, and I was coming on, I think, US Highway 60 into Phoenix. And I don't know why. It was like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to make too big a deal about it, but something in me said, you know, Steve, just stop. And I put my camera on the guardrail post, and I took a selfie with the timer. This would be the last picture I would have of my bright red bike, because it would be stolen later that day. All right? So, but I'm actually going to stop here. It's a little bit of a cliffhanger. All right? I'm going to do another, like, part 2 about my bike across America. My bike across America slideshow. What happened? Thanks for watching. Part 2's coming soon.